Welcome to the Strategic Thinkers Podcast. This is one that I've been looking forward to for a while. We've been chopping it up about all kind of stuff. At at the end of the day, we're able to bring it back around to public relations and the importance of it, and understanding how to be able to manage your reputation. So this is one that I think is going to be great for a lot of people because no matter where you are in your business journey, it's something that you have to be mindful of. And this is going to be a great person to be able to have this conversation with. I'm going to start with a promise. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why reputation management isn't just damage control, it's preventative strategy. You'll know the critical difference between short-term wins and long-term brand value. You'll recognize reputation mistakes that tank small businesses and learn how to build relationships that protect and elevate your reputation before a crisis hits. One of the key takeaways in what I'm talking about is preventative measures as opposed to trying to react and do something after the fact. Because once it's out there, it's out there. And it's a lot more work to be able to quiet something down than to get out ahead of it before it ever gets there. So, with that, I want to say, welcome, Nate. This is a pleasure. This is one that I've been looking forward to. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on here.
All right. Well, before I get into anything else, tell people about you, what you're doing, some of the things that you have going on, because we talk about public relations, and some people think advertising, some people think a lot of different things when they hear it. Give them a breakdown of what public relations is to you and some of the things that you're doing. So everything that we talk about afterwards, they've got some context.
Well, PR in the simplest terms is public relations, right? It's short for public relations. And what that means is basically communicating with the public. And that looks like reputation management. That looks like going to your local shop and just starting a relationship and building those strategic partnerships, right? So that's PR in a sense, right? It's authentic. It's sometimes people will say media trained, right? It's all these things, but what it is just being authentic, being you, and just building those relationships with your community, with your audience, and with the stakeholders that matter most to you.
Okay. Let's talk about the difference between reactive damage control and reputation building. Because a lot of people think that they have more time than they do to try to figure things out. But I know one of the things that we talked about is one of the things that I like to say at least is the trivial reveals the trajectory. So small things are going to show you where someone's headed. And from a PR perspective, what does someone do on a small scale that kind of lets you know what they would do on a bigger scale?
Customer service,
Mm,
biggest thing, right? And I like to say the golden rule is applicable to anything, right? When you talk about treat others how you want to be treated, when you look at a customer, right? How do you want to treat that customer? And that's a reflection of how you would do it at a large scale, right? If I can't cater to one person, how am I going to be able to cater to 100 people, right? If I treat one person bad, how will I treat 100 other people?
mhm,
So it's always the little things that matter in that. So you can see a lot of times, especially when a brand will face a crisis, is usually something that happens to the customer, whether it's a bad product, a bad review, or making a promise and not holding up your end of the deal.
mhm,
That's all bad experiences that a customer might have, and that's what takes it. Right? They might go to social media, they might write on a blog, they might tell a journalist about it, right? And now you're playing catch up and you're being more reactive rather than proactive. So now your reputation is already in danger. And now what do you do now? You look at the next people will be like, nah, I didn't say that. I didn't do this. Or this is the reason I did it. Or I only did this because you did that. Right. And now you're explaining it and you're trying to justify it instead of the main thing is taking accountability. Right.
yeah.
And like it's so much easier to stop a lot of problems by just saying sorry. And when you look at the experience side, let's say, Sean, I'm working with you, right? Let's say I own a restaurant. I
Hmm.
give you a bad sandwich. You ain't like the sandwich, it tasted wrong. Rather than saying, this is why the sandwich tasted bad and this, you don't want to hear that. You don't want, like, bro, my sandwich tastes bad. I don't want to hear this. Now, if I take the same approach and you tell me, hey, this sandwich is bad. Oh, my apologies. What was wrong with it? Oh, I'm sorry. I take full accountability. You know what? I'm going to give you two sandwiches on the house, right?
Right.
Now I went beyond your experience. So now it's a good reputation, right? Now I have a good reputation because you say this was a problem, negative. All right. So how do I justify it? If I only do one good thing, it's just gonna even it out. But if I get two sandwiches, hell, I'm gonna give you another sandwich. I'm gonna give you some dessert, and I'm gonna give you 50% off next time you come in. Now I just surpassed it. So it's all about kind of just maintaining that customer relationship or the relationship with that public. Make sure it's positive.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm listening to you, and it's bringing me back to a client that I'd worked with, and um, he was starting his home service business. He was doing painting work, and he got a negative review from someone. When one of the things that I know that he always does is when he does a painting job, he says, "Let me know if you see anything. I'll come back. I'll make sure that we'll make sure that we get everything right." And they didn't say anything to him. They just went straight up onto, Yelp and left a bad review and posted pictures and, like, did some stuff where, like, dude had to have laid down on the ground to be able to find that little angle to be able to show what he showed, and the guy was so mad that his thing is like, "I mean, I know I said it. I said, if you see anything, let me know. I'll come in and I'll make sure that everything's right." And then you bypassed that and then started posting pictures and left a bad review, and he said, "You know what? I can't respond. Like, can you step in and do it for me?" And one of the first things that I started doing, and this was one of the things that I think more people should look at, is get some context on who that person is. Because as much as there are the make goods, there are also people that are out there seeking make goods. You know what I mean? Like, there are those people that'll drop a hair in something and turn around and say, like, "Oh, there was a hair in my food." Like, get the context. So what I did is I went and looked at the person that left the reviews, and then it didn't take me long to be able to realize, well, they left a bad review at a restaurant and said, well, the service wasn't good. But you went there during the busiest time during holidays. And then it was something else, and then it was something else. And then eventually it got around to the guy said, well, yeah, I don't give anybody 5-star reviews to go. So if you got 4, you got 3, you actually, that's like getting a 5-star review from me. So context matters. If you don't have something where you have people see that you've been through something and you know how to be able to respond in that situation properly, then that's where you can turn around and you can run into some issues. So for him, that bad review ended up being like one of his best sales pitches because of the way that he was able to handle it. And it's very much what you said. He's saying is, you know what? I appreciate you giving me that review, letting me know that there were some things that you ran into. I'm going to come back out. I'm going to fix it. And then the follow up to after that was when the guy was like, well, I don't really give anybody 5-star reviews. Once he admitted that out loud, then it made it so that everybody else that he went to talk to, they were like, yeah, I mean, I'm not as bad as that guy. So, like, getting that kind of story, but starting with accountability is something that, one, it stops the bleeding. And then it allows you to be able to narrate and tell the story in a way that works for you, as opposed to just being beholden and a victim of whatever that situation looks like. So, absolutely, if you start with the accountability and you say you're sorry and you try to make it good, anything that comes after that is something where they start to look at that other person to go, well, I mean, they tried and you're still going, then it's kind of takes it so that it makes it more on that person than it is on the person that may have done the thing wrong in the first place.
Yep. Everybody just wants to know that you're human, right? And a lot of times, if you are a business owner, people don't always look at you as human. You mentioned a guy in the painting. He told him, "Yo, if you find anything, right?" He tried to be human.
Hmm.
Obviously, the guy didn't look at like, "Man, who are you? I don't leave good business reviews. I don't do this, man. I leave bad business reviews all the time. You're just a business review. You're just a business." But now, when you look at, "Oh, how can I try to be as human as possible? Even if this guy is a problem or a bad guy, right? Other people are going to also see that, right? You just being authentic, me just being human. All right. So now you're the problem. Now I'm a root for the underdog in a sense.
Hmm.
The guy that you're attacking, the victim, I'm a side with him because I want to see him win. Because you are making it your job to see him lose. Right. And it's all about kind of maintaining that human connection, that human aspect of business. And that's essentially what public relations is.
Yeah. I love where you went with it because so much of it is about framing and being able to tell a story. And because you started with the accountability, you're setting it up to be able to frame it. And then everything else that you do after that, it's however you choose to be able to tell that story, it's getting the control back. One of the other things I wanted to be able to ask you about is why is the margin of error for smaller businesses so small in comparison to the larger businesses? I know one right off the top, they tend to have more to lose, and they probably don't have the budget to be able to put behind burying something the way that somebody else would. But what are some of the things that you see when it comes to that? Because the margin of error is small, and I don't think there's enough people to think about that part.
You mentioned the 2 top ones, right?
Yeah.
Have more to lose. They don't have the money or the budget to kinda save themselves. And 3, since you are a smaller business, you're supposed to be for the people, right? You have more access. I have more access to a smaller business rather than a bigger business, right? I can talk
Hmm.
to the CEO of a smaller business. I can't necessarily talk to Elon Musk on a day-to-day basis. I can't call him up and say, "Yo, I ain't like the way this car drive." Right?
Right.
I can't do that. So because they have more access to you, it's gonna be a lot harder, right? It's gonna be a lot more tense, a lot more harsh, right? I'm gonna critique you a little bit different, right?
Hmm.
I'm gonna judge people in my community more harshly than somebody that I don't really know, right? So that's another reason. But in order to kind of at that, just be more human, right? I can't say it enough. Be more authentic, like be open,
Love
if you
that.
are a smaller business and you do encounter like a problem, like a bad sell, that bad review, that's bad PR. That's bad publicity. And I
Hmm.
don't care what nobody says. I don't care if you heard it in movies. All publicity, all publicity is good. And in order to kind of maintain your image and your reputation when you do encounter them, be accountable. Go be above and beyond, right? If you do something wrong, do 2 things good, right? Make it a story. Kind of take what you was alluding to, control the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Take control of your narrative. And so many times when we face a problem, right, that's out of our hands or we think it's out of our hands, especially as a small business, we just let it spiral. Let it
Hmm.
snowball, right? It reaches the media outlets, it reaches other people in the community, it reaches other customers. We just let that bad review just be a bad review on Google, and we never comment and we never do these things and we never try to take control of it. And that's kind of the beginning of the end in a sense, because when you let something spiral, it's only going to get bigger, right? And now when you try
Hmm.
to be like, all right, it's time to settle this, it's time to handle this, it's already too much. And now you have to kind of dig deep in your pockets, right? Which you don't have money because you're a small business, right? Now you're looking at like, okay, how do I solve this problem? It's a little too late, right? A
Yeah.
bigger business can just say, let's see if it goes away. Oh, it didn't go
Uh-huh.
away. Spiral to this. All right, let's put $100,000 behind this. Oh, that didn't work. Let's put 1 million. We're good. We're good. Small businesses can't do that, and that's kind of the difference.
Right. At what point do people usually realize that there's a reputation problem? Like, what's the wake up call? For me, I know one of the things that people that stands out to me is when the phone stops ringing. Like when it starts to hit you in the pocket and you start to go, well, what's going on? That's when you start to research and try to figure out, like, okay, well, I know what the norm is. And now I'm starting to notice that it hasn't been normal for a little while now. So when do you start to notice that people realize they have a reputation problem? And what's the wake up call that you know normally see?
Well, like you said, the pockets. People. When you talk about business, business is essentially about making money.
Mm,
When something stops you from making money, that's when you start realizing, right? And that's the problem that I see in a lot of small businesses, right? They only notice it, the crisis or the problem, or that your reputation is falling when your money stop coming in, right? And now, like I said, it's a snowball effect. It's hard to recover from that. But another time is when you're not getting the opportunities, right? So
yeah.
not just the money, but the access to the opportunities that would give you an authoritative position, right? To give you a little bit of power, get you in certain rooms, right? When you start making calls and nobody's answering, you're like, I wonder why they're not answering. Or I try to go in this room and I say my name and it's not ringing doorbells and like,
Mhm.
whoa, 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 nah, we good, we good. It's nice seeing you though, but we're
Yeah.
this is a little private. This is a little private, right? So when companies or brands start losing those opportunities, missing out on 'em, and not getting those phone calls, or they not getting that money, that's usually when they come.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. One of the biggest things that I always try to remind people is it's not just what you do, but it's who's talking about you in rooms that you're not in. And what they're saying is something that is really going to drive or, your business in a good direction or a bad direction. So you control the narrative as much as you can, but you also give them something that they can turn around and say. You give them a story, and as long as it's a good story, they'll tell that story in a way that helps you. But if it's not a good story, then I know where that can actually help hurt you at the same time. I know from the corporate side, there used to be publishers and they had their own Slack channel. And it was something where they would get in the Slack channel and there were people that would reach out and try to get deals and things going. And they never stood a chance because as soon as they mentioned that person's name, they would go into the Slack channel and say, "Tell me about this guy." And they were like, "Oh, yeah, I had a bad experience. There was this, there was this, there was this." And there were people that were struggling and they couldn't figure out why. And it's because of that Slack channel, and people didn't even know the Slack channel existed until getting to know some of those people. They were like, "Oh, yeah, I mean, we got a little Slack channel." It's like, "Oh, that explains everything." And then we start finding out who was in the channel, and it's just knowing who's in some of these rooms, you have to figure out how to be able to be spoken well in rooms that you're not in. One of the ways that I think that people can do that, and I know this is something that you're really good at, especially if it comes from getting out ahead of something, but also doing damage control. When people think of PR, there's probably a lot of things that they think about, but I don't hear enough people as far as small businesses talk about press releases and managing the stories locally so that they can seem more like a human and they can kind of get involved in the community in ways that if they did more of it, they would have a little more room to be able to work and build themselves up. So break down press releases for me. I know that's something that you focus on. I know that's something that you help a lot of businesses with. There's power in that, and I just don't think enough people think about it. So I would love if you can kind of cover some of that as well.
So press release one, don't use it too often, right?
Mm,
A lot of times businesses be like, I need to make a press release for this, this, this. I just did this. You're sounding like the boy that cried wolf, right? People don't, right? If you're in the public eye too much, right, and
mm,
your press releases are supposed to be about stuff that you're launching, about some type of impact that you're making, something that's new. Like, it has to be impactful. It has to actually be a story. So if you're making a press release, make sure there's an actual story, there's a good angle behind it. And next, to follow up, make sure you know the journalists that you want to pitch these to,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Journalists, especially as a small business, right? Let's take TV out, right? Let's take all the major marketing channels. Let's take social media out, right? Even though it's accessible, let's take social media out. Before all of this, before the TV, so YouTube, streaming,
Hmm.
social media, how do we spread the word? We talk to a journalist. We
Yeah.
talk to somebody we knew. We talk to somebody on the radio, right? All these prime people that we know in our community, right? And say, yo, I got this going on. Let's say I got a pizza spot. I'm about to launch a pizza spot, right?
Hmm.
We only serving pepperoni pizza, nothing else. Only pepperoni pizza. And we're doing it this time, right? And we're doing it here and we're doing it this and this is how we're doing it. That's the press release. I just put the whole
Hmm.
story in a thing and now I'm talking to you as a journalist. I'm building this relationship because you might like pizza. Or you might know somebody that likes pizza. Your audience might like pizza. Or we haven't had a pizza spot in the city for a while, right?
Hmm.
We gotta go to out of town to get pizza. We gotta go 3 blocks away. Right. These are the stories, these are the angles that you can kind of pitch and kind of develop that relationship. Now they're getting to know you and your business. Now is more relationship driven rather than, yo, I got a press release. You should talk about this.
Hmm.
All right, we talked about it. Now, a couple weeks later, I got another press release. What's this one about? Same thing. I just changed the words on this one. A couple months go by, I got another press release. damn, buddy, you doing a lot of stuff, right? You're
Right.
what impact is this making in the community, right?
A lot of the same thing, yeah.
Because as a journalist, as a media personality, my main thing is for the community, right? So if you're a business, right, I only care about what you're doing for the community. I don't care about what's in it for you. I don't care. It's nice for you, right? It's
Mhm.
good for you. How does this affect your audience? How does it affect my audience? How does it affect anything that's going on in the community? And those are just some of the questions that you need to ask yourself before you even get into the press release and start writing it, before you start talking to journalists, before you even think about PR and events, whatever it is.
There's a lot in what you said that I want people to be able to hear. The community aspect is definitely something that when people think about PR and they like, well, I'm gonna put something out. It has to be something in it for the people that are listening or reading. It has to be something in it for the reporter, the journalist, whoever it is. You have to understand the advantage for them in order to truly be able to have that conversation. If I was equating it to music, like don't stand out in front of a record label with a demo tape or whatever the CD or whatever it is. Like they have no reason to listen. They have no reason to want to hear what you're saying. You have to frame it in a way that makes it worthwhile to them to say, well, here's what's in it for you. Here's how this is going to be a good story. Here's why this is something that would be advantageous for you to be able to look at. One of the other things that I know that we talked about is the level of timing when it comes to it, because I know you'll run into some people that are like a week out and say, oh, I need a press release. And that's not really how that works. So, can we talk about the timing as well? Because it's framing it, but then it's also understanding the timing in order to make sure that it works in both ways. Like you can have something really great, but if the timing's off, it's not really going to get you the results that you're looking for.
So, first thing I want to talk about is press release is not the only thing that you need to be doing when you do have an event or you do have a launch. If you're just doing a press release and you're calling me for a press release or you're talking to another PR agency for just a press release, they don't have enough information. They don't have enough time. They don't have enough. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it in order to make it successful the way that you want, right? So don't just, if you're a small business, just don't think that you're going to, hey, I got this event coming out tomorrow. I need a press release. Excuse me? Right? Because we have to talk to the journalists. We have to submit it to journalists. We have to actually frame the story, right? Sometimes the story that you think people want to hear is not the story they want to hear, right?
Yes.
And that doesn't matter to the journalists. So now when you're talking about putting together a whole campaign, which it should be, right? A press release should be a part of a larger campaign,
Mhm.
have to talk about timing, right? At least a couple months out because we need to understand the story of why you're doing this as well, right? People don't just care about what you're doing, they care about why you're doing it. And the why starts a while before you even do it. So now we need to do an interview with you. Now we need to talk to your team. Now we need to get these journalists on board to say, yo, this is why you need to talk to them. This is why you need to spotlight them. This their team is doing this. This the impact they made. This is what they're launching. This is what the future looks like for them. And we can start putting that story together. And if you give us a week to put a story together, it's not going to be a very impactful story.
Right.
Now, hey, you might talk to a PR agency that says, "Yeah, I'll take your story in a week, right? I'll get everything on." If they do well, they're superheroes. Send them to me.
Yeah.
I'll love to talk to them, right? I'll love to pick their brain, even hire them. But a majority of the PR agencies, you need some time. Like
Right.
time is very important for us to get it right. We're never going to get it perfect, right? Everything never goes according to plan if you've been in business for a long time, right? But
Facts.
we can strive for perfection along that route, right? And then we can have countermeasures for certain things.
Okay. Yeah, I just thinking about it, there's a correlation between public relations and advertising. When I have conversations with clients and I'm talking about like business strategies and things like that, I'm always talking to them about quarters ahead and making sure that they're planning things out further ahead so that they give themselves the runway to be able to plan things and think about what happened. Like, because the thing with planning, like I've got a business and advertising and marketing planning background. You can plan, but you're planning for perfect scenarios. What you also have to be able to leave room for is planning for when things don't go the way that you plan. And if you do something where you're only giving yourself a week, then you're not leaving room for when things go sideways and things go sideways. So
all
I
the
think
time.
that's where media training starts to kick in because the more you start to get into those things and the more you start to be in that world, the more you start to realize there are players, there are people, there's all kind of factors that you have to be able to consider. And if you don't take those things into consideration, you may get lucky, but you won't get consistency. And someone coming to you and saying, I got a week and I've got money. There are going to be some people that may take the money, but they're not guaranteeing them the results that they're expecting. But if you give them more time and you give them a story and you give them something enough context for them to be able to figure out how to frame it in a way that would work, then that's when you can actually do something.
Yep. And I do want to push back. They are doing it
Please.
within a week. If they are doing it within a week, don't give them your money. I know I said I said try them out. I'm gonna push back on what I said. Please be more thoughtful, right?
Mm,
Because it doesn't make sense that they like your event is in a week or a couple days, whatever it may be, and they can execute the results that you are going to want, right? And that's another thing. Like a lot of small businesses go into these, whether it's PR agencies, whether it's small firms, boutique firms,
mhm,
whether it's just a freelancer, not knowing the impact or the outcomes that they want, right? And now they're going in at disadvantage. So now they can't even talk about, now I can basically say whatever. And you're saying, well, I want this. Now you just want the service. But the impact of that service is more important than the service itself.
facts.
I'm gonna be honest. Most clients don't know what they need, right? They know what they want or they think they want, but they don't know what they need. And as an agency or a freelancer or whatever, if you are in the business of helping businesses, right? Your job is to make sure that you are helping them get to the outcome that they want, regardless
Mhm,
if it's within your frame or not, right? If it's not within your frame, refer somebody or say, hey, that's not me, right? But as a small business, it's also important to understand like there's a lot of sharks out here, right? And
mhm.
some of y'all be swimming without life jackets, right? So be wary of that, right? And make sure that you do background checks. And the time it takes you to do a background check, your event already passed.
Yeah,
And so if you are hiring somebody within a week, I know damn well you ain't do a background check. And I know damn well they can't even get a story out that quick and have the results that you want. So always be aware of that.
facts, facts. Okay. Well, let's talk about media training because most small business owners will say, I don't need that. I'm not doing interviews. But I know from our conversation, we both agreed that there's more to it than that. Like you may not be doing a TV interview, but the same type of questions or the same type of interaction you may have with the cameras there, it also carries over into clients and people that you never know who's watching, you never know what's going on. So, for the people that are saying, I don't need that, I want to be able to talk about why it's something that's important and what's at stake for those that don't think they need it.
Okay. So for the businesses or business owners that saying I don't need media training, couple questions. Are you on social media?
Mm,
Do you interact with customers? Do you want to speak at events or conferences? Do you want to build your reputation? Right? These are all things that require media training, whether you think so or not. Let's reframe media training, right? Sometimes it sounds a lot harder to access than it is. Public
mm,
speaking. Can you speak in public? Do you know how to speak customer service? Right? These are all things that is media training without using those exact words, right? So when you're talking about just being able to one golden rule, be a good human, right?
yeah.
Think about questions from your client's perspective or your audience perspective, right? how would this make them feel? Just like second guess, right? Now, I know being PR trained gets a lot of flack. 'Cause you're like, they're not real. No, we're just not saying what exactly comes to our mind. We might
Mhm.
hear a dumb question and think it's a dumb question. Well, we don't say it's a dumb question. We might reframe it. What do you mean by that? Did you
Yeah.
mean it like this? That's media training, right? It's just about being a good human, right? And when you talk about media training, the first thing, golden rule. Golden rule always, right? If I don't like something being said to me, I'm not going to say it to you, right? I don't want to give you ammunition, and I don't want to be framed as a bad guy in public, right? Second
Mhm.
thing, accountability. It's easy. It's not, it's easy to say sorry. I'm sorry. It's 2 words, and it stops a lot of stuff. It stops a lot of bleeding that happens. Three, improvising, but not in a way like don't say whatever comes to your head, but know how to roll with the punches, right? That's one of the biggest things, right? And that's when it comes to media training, that's what we focus on a lot. Cause like you said earlier, you can plan for a lot of stuff. When I'm going on TV, like there's a script, there's certain questions that's going to be asked, there's certain things. I don't want to say script because that's a negative connotation too. There's certain things going to be asked. We know certain questions that might be
Mhm.
asked, certain things, certain trends, right? But it's never going to go according to the plan. Nothing. Audience member, you might be at an event. Audience member might be, I don't like your hat. And you might love that hat. Instead of saying, well, F you, my grandma
Mhm.
gave me this hat. Say, you know what? This hat is very important to me. That's why I wear it. You might not like it, but other people might. And I just want to show that and tell that story. I just reframed it. Now she feels bad. Now I look good, right? That's
Yeah.
media training. And so if you are a small business and you're interacting with any form of public speaking, customers, clients, event sponsors, investors, whatever it is, you need media training because it's going to stop you from one, making a lot of mistakes, and two, learning how to roll with the punches. Because somebody might say some off the wall stuff, and if you're not media trained, you might say something back. But it's
It's
about understanding
inevitable.
what questions to answer, what questions not to answer, right? What questions answer, what questions not to answer, and what questions can I kind of play around with, and
Mhm.
maybe I can frame this a little bit better and make myself look good, make my team look good, or maybe get some donations off this question, right?
Yeah, yeah. I love the reframe. The reframe, if people don't take anything else from it, the reframe is one of the most important things that someone can pick up, and that's low-hanging fruit. So, if someone asks you a question and the way that they're framing it doesn't work for you, reframe it so that you can tell the story and you can narrate it in a way that takes it from being something that's setting you up to fail into it being something that sets you up for that win. So, someone asking you a question and it's a loaded question, then you can ask for more context. Well, like you said, what do you mean by that? I'm sorry I didn't understand that. Can you repeat that back again? It's all of these little things that show people, you know what? I'm going to give you a second chance to ask that question again because the way you asked it is something that it's leaving room for this to go in the direction that you may not want it to go in. So instead of getting mad, being able to reframe it or being able to say, I heard you ask the question this way. I'm not going to not answer it, but I would like to reframe it in a way that will allow me to be able to get the information that you're asking for over to the people that may need it the most. Like, that's reframing. That's being able to figure out ways to be able to take a narrative that's being taken in a direction that doesn't suit you and being able to turn it back around into something that can be advantageous. So, definitely with that. I know from our conversation, you made a comparison to law. When you said it's stepping into PR and media, it's very much like going into a court. Like one wrong thing you say can cost you partnerships, deals, it can get you canceled. How do you help someone understand the gravity without making them so paranoid that they never want to say anything? Because online, it's very easy to say something, and online, like we already know, the whole joke is there's receipts. Like, I will joke with some people when I see them post something, I'm like, "Oh, put the shovel down." Like, you're gonna have a hard time digging yourself back out of that. So, how do you prepare people for it without making them so overwhelmed that they're scared to say anything?
I think it's hard the beginning stages of it. right?
Mm,
When they come to us, like, it's hard. They be like, "Well, why don't I just hide myself and do this?" Because that's not the way you wanna run your business, right? That's not the way you wanna live your life. But the more we go into it, the more you get trained, the more you kinda get the confidence, right? Because it's just a confidence thing, right?
mhm,
Fear is just a problem with confidence. You look at somebody that's scared to play basketball, right? Scared to take a jumper, right? When they first get on the court. It's a confidence issue. But the more they put in work and the more they train and the more they kind of build themselves up, the more confident they get. So the more freedom they start to experience. So it's all about understanding like one, what is your goals in business? Right. We try to relate it to what's your goals in business as much as possible because how do you want to live your life? Do you want to just be like a shadow? I don't want to do this. I don't want to post. I don't want to say anything. How you gonna make money? Well, if it gets down to that, how are you gonna make money? How are you gonna get these sponsorships? How are you gonna get investors? How are you gonna make the impact that you wanna make without being in that public, without being in the public eye? It's very hard to do, right? Almost impossible to do. So that's kind of how we frame it. And then just when treating it like kids, like you know how to talk to kids. You talk to kids very nice. Right? Most adults talk to children a lot nicer than other adults, right? So
yeah,
talk to them like that, right? Don't say too many big words because most people aren't going to understand that, right?
mhm,
Talk like you're talking to a fifth grader. And you're going to start, like, if you picture me as a kid, you're going to start talking nicer. You're going to start being more gentle, less slower paced. You're not going to talk super fast using big words, all right? You're going to be calm. Now, when you treat the audience like children, in a sense, right? Like a baby, don't baby them. Talk as if you were talking to a fifth grader, right? That's going to make the language more accessible. That's going to make you naturally just be like, all right, let me be a little more patient, right?
right,
Maybe they didn't mean to ask this question like this, right? Because we're a lot harder on adults. You said, what? Really?
mhm,
Well, how about I say, but if it's a kid, you're like, what you say? What do
yeah.
you mean by that? Now you're more patient, right? So kind of just treat them like kids.
That is a great way to be able to frame that because we will slow down, we will get context from a kid, and we also give them grace because where did you hear that from? Where did you learn that? Who taught you how to say that? That's a level of grace that we give children that we don't give an adult. Adult says something and it's a gotcha moment. And a kid says something and it's a hold on, let me get context before I flip out or before I have a response in a way that may do more damage than it does help. That you were able to put it that way. Okay, well let's talk about relationship building because as much as we're talking about media training, part of media training is understanding how to be able to build those relationships with the people that are in a position to be able to give you that good press. And it's not just press releases, it's about, like you said, being a human, but also recognizing the opportunities and how to be able to, again, frame things. Walk me through how a small business owner, let's say someone running a local deli or a service business, starts forming relationships with a journalist. What's the first step look like? How do they know what journalists to reach out to, and how do they start building out those relationships?
You look at your brand. You look at who you are. You look at your people that you work with. You look at the type of chemistry y'all have. You look at the type of conversation you want to be a part with, right? Before you even start going out, you gotta look inward, right?
Love
I
that.
can't build a relationship with you if I don't understand the type of relationship I want to build, right? And that starts internally, right? So, what's my brand? Who am I as a business owner? Who am I as a business? Who's my team, right? Who's the individual on my team? Who's our assistant? Like, if I'm a coffee shop, the barista, like, do I know the barista? What does she want out of this business, right? And just starts internally. That way, when I do have all this nailed down, right, I understand myself as a brand, my company as a brand, my team as a brand, and the individuals in that. Now I can reach out and say, yo, this is what we do. This is who we are. This is why we do what we do, right? And this is the conversation that we're a part of, right? Now I can start identifying certain journalists that may already be a part of the same conversation. And now we have something to talk about. If I'm a coffee shop owner, I'll let's say I'm gonna use Brick and Culture. I'm gonna use one of our clients. Brick and culture, right?
Mhm.
It's in the name. Brick and culture, right? It's about culture. It's about connection. It's about connectivity, right? It's about spotlighting Black Americans, right? Black artistry, right? So when we talk to journalists, we're talking to journalists that want to do the same thing. They want to bring people into culture. They want to spotlight artists. They want to show the Black community, right? They want to do these things. And now you're just a coffee shop that does it. So now the conversation is about the people that we're doing it for, and it becomes about the impact. Now that relationship with that journalist is a lot easier. Hey, we do this, 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 and this. I see you do this, this, and this. Want to have coffee? Maybe we can build a
Mhm.
relationship. Now we just now we just talking. Now we just getting to know each other. Now it's less about business, right?
Mhm.
And the more you can make it less about the business and the sales and all this, and more about the impact that you're making in the community audience, the more people are more likely to kind of gravitate towards you, especially as a journalist, because journalists don't want to hear, you got a business, this is a product, all right, you want me to publish this article so it can get you sales. How does that help them? How does it help the
Yeah.
journalists? All right.
Yeah.
But now, if you're talking about you like this is what you're interested in. I've seen your community. This is who you talk to. I got the same community. I talk to them too. We got the same interests. Maybe we can kind of collaborate. Maybe we can join these two worlds, right? And make this collaboration and maybe we'll have a bigger impact in the community. Oh, that's dope. Why not?
Yeah.
Right? It's the why not factor.
The why not factor is one of the best things that you can be able to cover. Again, so much of what you're saying goes back to some of the things that you've already said. Be a human. Find the things that you can actually relate to someone with. Framing. If you know how to frame it, then you can bring something to someone that is you trying to see to you, but you can frame it in a way that says, well, here's how you benefit from being able to tell this story for me. And in doing so, then it starts to get you further and further into that conversation. Let's talk about the people that think that they don't have a story. So there are a lot of people that say my story isn't interesting enough for media coverage. How do they identify what about their story is interesting and what makes journalists say yes versus passing? I think framing is a big part of it, but like I imagine you have to pull some stories out of people to be able to figure out how to frame it properly in order to be able to bring it to someone and have them say yes.
So that's a good question actually. First things first is understanding, like I said, your brand, who you are, right? And how did you get there? Right? That's a story in itself. How did you create the business? Right? It might not be about, right? The story might not be about the products you're selling. It might be about why you started a business. It might be about just you. What was your journey to start this business? Right? And the easiest framework I could probably say is understanding your narrative is who's the villain, right? Why did you start
Mhm.
a business? Because it has to be a problem. It has to be a villain,
Yeah.
right? It has to be an enemy, whatever it is. There's a reason that you started a business. So what was the problem that you was trying to solve, right?
Mhm.
Or should be, right? It should be. Who's the hero? Is it your and usually that's your audience. It should be your audience. Your audience is the hero, right?
Yes.
It's the people that, right, you're serving that you want to talk about. This the conversation you want to be a part of, right? This is the people that want to come to you to kind of elevate to become a hero, right? Because the protagonist doesn't always start off as Superman. It starts off as Clark Kent. That's why every movie we have to watch Clark Kent become Superman, right?
Right.
Because it starts off with the protagonist and then eventually they go through you, right? They go through you, which is the suit that turns them into Superman, right? So understanding the hero and the villain in your story, that's kind of the basis in terms of it should bring something out of you, right? Founder story, right? I started this company because of why, right? I was spent 8 years in boom, 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 and this
Mhm.
is world that I wanted to change, right? A lot of times stories is more future driven, right? And when I mean future driven, I'm not talking about Tesla and going to the moon. I'm talking about the world that you're trying to create for others, right? For the heroes of your story. The world that you're trying to create that beats the villain, right? A lot of times stories operate in heroes and villains. If you look at the media now, there's a lot of heroes, a lot of villains, and that's kind of the framework that we watch.
I love that. There's so much to unpack in that. Again, it always goes back to the very things, and I'm just going to keep reiterating because I want people to be able to hear it. Is it's being a human, and it's being able to frame things and explain it in a way that make other people feel like, yeah, that's me, or want to feel like they see themselves in the actual stories. A lot of it is positioning. Like what I love about public relations is it's very similar to marketing and advertising. And that's the thing that you're trying to be able to make sure that you do. So I can say one of the things that I know is when you're looking at framing, trying to be the hero in the story and making it about you, there are going to be some people that may find it interesting because they find you interesting, but people that don't know you have no reason to care. So, when thinking about framing, sometimes doing something from a observational standpoint is a way to be able to frame something. One of the things that I'll tell people is there are different reasons that people will start a business. They had a great experience that they want to have other people share. They had an awful experience that they want to help people avoid. That's an origin story. That's something that someone can see themselves in to go, well, what was the great experience? Then you can talk about yourself because you're like, well, you're trying to help me get like something that you enjoyed. And if it's something that was a bad experience, then you're stepping in and saying, well, you know what? Here's the thing that I saw that it didn't go well for me. And if I can help you avoid that, then it's not about me, it's about you. And that kind of framing makes it easier for people to have a reason to lean in and want to be able to learn more, especially in this world now where, everything is saturated. There's so much going on where like if it was 7 to 12 touch points, which is just another way of saying 7 to 12 times for someone to see you or hear about you or something like that before they start to recognize you. Now, because there's so much information and so many different people talking about what they're doing and all the rest of these things, it's more like 20 to 25 these days. So you better have a story that stands out. And if you're going to tell the story, find a way for the person to see themselves in the story, and that's what's gonna grab them, that's what's gonna get them interested because everybody's got a lot going on, and if you're making it about you, then it's really time for them to start tuning it out and go, "Well, I mean, that's good for you, whatever you got going on, but now it's making me think about my situation and what I need to be thinking about and what I need to be doing for myself." Framing it in a way where you can do something like that, and then bringing it back around to we share the same problem. We share the same struggle. We share the same challenge. Here's how I can actually help you with that. Or here's why this it should matter to you the same way it matters to me. That's the bond. And if you can figure out a way to be able to figure out how to do that and bring that to a journalist or bring it to you, then half the work is done. And then the rest of it is really relationships and making sure that people have what they need. So I'll say this, we talked about the positive side, the origin stories for the people that don't have something and the people that may not have any bad reputation. Let's talk about damage control and the people that have to manage their reputation when things do go awry and they have to figure out what they're going to do. We've seen so many different variations of it. I think when we had like our strategy session, I was joking that there was an influencer who did an apology. And I mean, we talked about accountability. We've all seen apologies where they seem disingenuous, but that's the power of taking accountability. Even when you know that person really isn't sorry, they said sorry. It was enough to be able to buy themselves some time to figure out what the next move was going to be. So when talking about, doing damage control, what's some of the tips beyond just saying, "You know what, I'm sorry," because we've seen some people do some apologies. I don't know if they had any media training. I don't know if they had anybody that was really on the PR side because the apology is a justification and not really an apology. It's, "Well, you gotta understand," and a lot of buts in it. And for me, that's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you clearly didn't talk to someone. You just drafted something up. You went to ChatGPT or Claude or something like that, and it gave you a version of something, and then you still figured out a way to kind of put yourself back in it and try to put yourself in a position where it was bots, it was trolls, it was this, it was that, and you're blaming everybody else, but just sticking with "I'm sorry." So, what are you looking at when it's reputation damage and they're trying to pull themselves up out of it, and how do you help them avoid that part?
As you mentioned, like, apology is first and foremost, but meaning the apology and, like, it hurts, right? So before we even get to the apology, right, something is becoming chaotic, right? There's a lot of damage control, it's a crisis, right? It's where you get into crisis communication. Take a break, like, take a step back, because a lot of times when something is attacking you or you feel like even if, like, you said something, somebody took it the wrong way, right? It still affected them in a bad way. So they're going to attack you, right? Taking a step back, right? It's your job as a business owner, it's your job as the person, as the authority to kind of take a step back, calm yourself
Mm,
down, right? Because, like I said, intrusive thoughts, sometimes we act off the first thing instead of the second thing or the third thing that we want to say, right? So taking a step back and then clearing your mind and saying, no matter what, it affected them a lot more than it affected you, right? Whether it was a bad product, it affected them a lot more than it affected you, right? Because they're hurting, you're not.
mhm,
So coming from a position of power, right? All right, they're hurting, I'm not. The least I can do is say sorry, right? And meaning an apology. Hey, that's a bad burger I gave you. I'm sorry. I apologize, right? The second thing is bringing them along with the journey, right? So try to apologize, try to
mhm.
2x your apology, right? If you do something bad, we talked about earlier, do something bad, do two things good,
Yes.
but also take them along with the journey, right? They want to know as a client or a customer or a public, whatever it is, investor, whatever, they want to feel like we're a team. No matter what,
Yes.
no matter if they say it or not, your audience want to feel like your team. When I buy a product, I want to feel like the company cares about me. When I buy
Yeah.
iPhones, I want to like you care about if my FaceTime working or not, right? I want you to feel like you care, and that's the most important part. So when you do that, like you take them along with the journey. How would you fix it? Like what? How can I make it better for you, right? I gave you 2 burgers extra. What else would you like, right? Matter of fact, how about we kinda solve this together, right? We're thinking about
Mm,
launching a new burger. Can you test it out for us? See if it's good. See what we can do. Now they feel like they're along with the journey. And when you do a public apology, now you can say, "Okay, I can go on social media. I can do this, right? I apologize. I 2x my thing. Let's bring this audience along with my journey." Yesterday, even if it's like one on one, right? I gave you a bad burger, right? Now let me go to social media. Yo, yesterday we had a client, he's right here. Sean, I gave Sean a bad burger, right? I wanted to tell the public because, right? If y'all had a bad burger, maybe y'all had a bad burger and y'all didn't come eat with us again.
yeah.
That's my fault, right? And if you didn't let us know, we apologize. We're sorry. But to help us, Sean and I are creating a new burger, right? And we're about to have
Nice.
Burger Day next week, right? So come, it's gonna be 50% off your burgers. Bring your family, bring your kids, right?
Nice.
And let's talk about burgers. There's gonna be an open discussion, right? So we can learn how to better our burgers, better our customer service. If it's drinks, right? Let's have a discussion. Let's have a community day. So now you kind of brought them along with the journey, right? So not only did you apologize to him, you showed them that you apologized and you just made it now everybody knows you had a bad burger, right? Some people will say that's more damage. No, because now I just had new day, right? Community
Mhm.
day where we're gonna talk and discuss. Now I'm doing damn near a survey, right? Instead of paying for a survey, I just held a survey. I gave
I see
50%.
what you're doing there, yeah.
Like, right? So now, like, you bring them along that journey. Now it's easier to do damage control at a larger scale, right? But as a small business, take advantage of community. Take advantage of you being
Yes.
able to actually talk to your client, talk to your customer, being able to actually go on social media and people care. Because not everybody care about McDonald's. Like, not everybody care about, well, most people made fun of it, but do they really care that the CEO didn't like the burger? That he took more than 80 bites? Was it funny or did they really think like, oh, I'm not about to eat at McDonald's? They're a larger company. They get away with stuff a little bit better. That
Right,
smaller company, let's take advantage of it.
right. I'm gonna pause here because there are so many gems in what you said that I really want people to be able to hear it. It's not just the apology and taking a moment to be able to make sure that whatever apology you give, you have to figure out a way to be able to make it genuine. Again, framing. Like, yes, you can apologize, but when you can take a step back and be able to remember that A person paid for something and they were inconvenienced. Everyone understands what it feels like to be on the other side of that. So when you can take that accountability, then that's what makes the apology more genuine. There are a lot of people that are butts and stills and doing all the rest of that. They're not seeing the other person's side of things. And because they can't see the other person's side of it, that's what makes it feel disingenuine. I want people to be able to hear that part. The other part in what you said that really stood out to me was bringing them along in the story. So it's yes, you can do 2 times. If one thing goes wrong, you can offer them 2 things. Some people are okay with that, and then they go off and tell their version of a story. What I love about what you did was you said you're bringing them along for the story. So someone can have had a bad burger. I know I've eaten some places and I'm like, "You know what? I didn't pay for food poisoning." Like I had some food and it messed my stomach up. Now my story is they messed me up. So now I couldn't do this, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do this. That's a story that somebody's gonna tell more than once. But to bring someone along in the story, then it allows you to be able to take control of the narrative again. So do the 2 things. That's great. That's the beginning of the story. But to bring them along in the story, it allows you to be able to take over it again and control the narrative in a way that says, not only did I fix it, I apologize, but now I'm bringing that person along, and this is where the other part kicks in. I love the fact that you said, done well, you bring that person up front and say, they had a bad burger. You're not hiding it, you're bringing it to the front. And you're saying some other people may have had a bad burger and they may not have said something. I want you to know that if you ever had a bad experience, I want you to tell us because I want you to have the same experience that this person had. They had a bad burger, and now we're figuring out how to be able to make the burger just the way they want it. And I want you to be able to have the burger the way that you want it. You took that another step further and said, okay, well, now we're going to have a burger day. That 50% you took off, if you get twice as many people coming in to be able to have that burger day, then you not only broke even, but now you have that feel good moment. And that brings it back to PR. And that brings it back to being able to have a story. And you did something within the community. And you did all of these things that now, if you want to be able to go to a journalist or someone to be able to promote something, you can show the full steps and the full journey. And you put together a story that makes sense. It's sellable, it's marketable, it's a feel good thing that other people will feel good about. And it's you not making it about you, it's you making it about them. So in the retelling of that story, it's like, well, Sean had a bad burger. It's not the burger shop, it's Sean had a bad burger. And I brought Sean up to the front to talk about his experience of having that bad burger. And I allowed Sean to be able to say, well, no, he gave me 2 burgers after that. And then he brought me in to say what kind of toppings did I like and where did it go wrong and how did I think it could be better. That's not the company making it about themselves, it's making it about the audience, the community, and everything else. When we're talking about framing, when we're talking about all the rest of these things, I wanted to pause because, 1, I want to give you your flowers on that because there's a lot of great information in what you said, and I wanna make sure that people hear that. Don't just apologize, find out why that person or how that person was inconvenienced, and if you bring that into your apology, then it automatically makes it more genuine. And if you're savvy enough to be able to figure out how to reframe that and take control of a bad situation and turn it into something where you're bringing that person along for the ride, that person gets to feel heard. I almost forgot the other part that I want to be able to say, and it was you talking about bringing them along as part of the team. You just created a brand champion. Like, I want to make sure that people understand how flawless what it was that you broke down was, because from an advertising standpoint and from a corporate standpoint of being with the larger companies, that's how they do it. But you were just breaking it down on how to be able to do it for a small business. So, yeah, I want to pause there because it had layers to it. It had tiers to it, and I need people to understand that's brilliance. That's someone that actually knows what they're doing and knows how to be able to reframe it in a way that takes something that's hard to do if you don't have a lot of money and showed you how to be able to do it in a way that you don't have to spend a lot of budget. You just have to have enough time and enough good sense to be able to say, here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring them in and I'm going to allow them to put the wind beneath my sails and give me everything I need to turn this into something that's bigger than me, and once it's bigger than me, then it's gonna have a life of its own. So props to you, because I know what I heard in that. And I wasn't gonna let that get swept under the rug by jumping to something else. I want to make sure that people heard that because yeah, man, that had layers. And those layers are the very thing that makes you great at what you do.
I appreciate that, and I wanna talk about what you just said, brand champions.
Mm.
When growing a brand, whether it's marketing, whether it's advertising, whether it's PR, you want to have brand champions. You want to have advocates. You don't want your clients to just stay clients. You want them to be a part of that journey because when they become brand champions, they're going to talk for your brand. They're going to fight for your brand. So if there is damage control, they're going to be like, wait a minute, I know them. They don't just do this. There's right. Mention a burger scenario. The guy, if somebody say, "Oh, you had something bad," well, you should talk to him.
Yes.
I went through that with him. They do this, this, and this. Now he's fighting for you. Now he's a part of your team, right? Whether he's getting paid or not, he's a part of it because you made him feel a certain way, right? And that's always the end goal. That's why you always want to be human. You want to be authentic, but you want to build that relationship with your audience to the point where they become advocates, where they become brand champions, because then you stop fighting by yourself and start fighting a little bit more with the audience that you built.
Absolutely. Yeah, I one of the easiest ways to be able to express that is there's the beehive. Shame on you, you get online or you go someplace and you say something bad about Beyonce. Like, she's built up brand champions to the point where she doesn't have to say a word. They defend her in rooms that she's not in,
She
and
don't
they've
say a
defended
word.
her so well that people are scared to say anything. Nicki Minaj has her own audience. There are a lot of people that have built their brand out in ways that allow them to have brand champions that fight the fight for them. And a lot of what we've been discussing is how to be able to have yourself spoken positively about in rooms that you're not in. And this is how you start to build that out. This is how you start to piece some of that stuff together. So let's talk about personal brand versus a business brand because some people look to be able to build out their brand based on who they are as a person. And one of the things that I tell them from an advertising standpoint and just from someone that had like a music background, there's advantages to it and there's disadvantages to it. What I want to be able to do is have you talk about it. So let's talk about a personal brand versus a business brand. And how does someone know whether to build a personal brand or keep themselves behind the business brand? Similar to, we've seen a lot of different examples of people that stopped up. I think of Papa John's. That's one of the first ones to come to mind for
Yeah,
me.
that's a good one. I would probably say first thing, you can do both. I don't want to discourage. You can do both in terms
Hmm.
of as a small business. I know being the face of your brand is very appealing, right? But it comes to a certain point, right, where yes, you can leverage being a personal brand because that's the relationships that you have. But when you are training, you are bringing your team, and you are expanding, all right? I know Sean because I know Sean, right? But I ain't gonna work with Rebecca because I don't know Rebecca. So now it starts becoming daunting. Like I want to expand, I want to scale, I want to take a step back. But as a client, I'm not. Hey, Sean, I don't know this. I know you,
Hmm.
so you have to stay here. So there is a way to do it. I don't want to completely discourage it, but as you expand, you need to start thinking about what is the relationships that you have, like the values that you have, and how does it relate to your overall company brand?
Yes.
Is that the same values that is displayed across the team? Right? Because when you look at a whole company brand, it's about everybody. It's not
Hmm.
just about if I go to Starbucks and that worker makes me upset, I'm mad at Starbucks. The whole
Yes.
company, the whole organization, all for one team member. They have millions of employees. I'm mad at that one, taking it out on everybody. Right. And that's kind of the difference. So you gotta understand, like when you start talking about company brand, you are responsible at the early age, right? As a small businesses, it's very easy to talk about this is how I want it done at this stage with 3
Hmm.
members, with 4 members. You get to 10, it starts getting a little complicated. You get to 20, it starts getting a lot more complicated. So it's always important to have those brand values in terms of this is how we operate. This is how we show up the media training. This is how we show up in the world. This is the conversation we're part of, right? And then once you build that out, now you can kind of separate this is me who I am, right?
Hmm.
This is the company I have. We're growing this thing. This is the conversation we'll be a part of but necessarily what I do doesn't necessarily affect my company because you
Yes.
understand the experience of that company. Elon Musk does a lot of dumb stuff. Tesla might take a little hit, but they don't take a lot of hits
They're still here.
because they're still a good company. They still have good PR. Extreme case, Diddy, P. Diddy. One, everybody should know him. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. But
Mhm.
he has a company called Revolt.
Yes.
Sean, Sean Combs was doing a lot of stuff, right?
Yes.
Before even the allegations, the crimes, all that, he had TV shows where he was wilding, right? He was being
Mhm.
a terrible person, right? To what was it, rap kids, rap stars, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And he had Revolt. They didn't take hits from that
At
because
all.
they had certain values, right? So now when you are a small business and you are like, I'm growing my personal brand, I'm being known for this, my company is also doing this. Now I can start diverging, right? Now I
Yes.
can start. Well, one, I don't want you to be. I'll highly recommend you don't just be off the hinges. Like, still keep your music, right? But you can start diverging because this experience I know I'm getting with this, and now you can start bringing in investors and
Yes.
stakeholders for that company because you built it to be sustainable without you, right? When you just have a personal brand, you are the brand. Sustainability is based off of you. If you can't be sustained, your company can't. And that's kind of problem with personal brand versus company brand.
I love where you went with it with the Starbucks analogy because that's something I think people can understand. I'm with you. My advice to people is to build both. If you're relying strictly on one, something can always go wrong. If you have both, then it gives you something that you can kind of pivot to. And as you start to grow and scale, you can you kind of diversify things in ways that make a lot more sense. Let's bring it back around, and I'll just continue to stick with the theme of what you started with because I trust in what you're saying, and I trust in what I've seen and in my eyes. You can start with the human version because people invest in the people that they feel like they know, like, and trust, and the people that they feel like they know. So if you're building out both, there's nothing wrong with starting with the personal brand because when you're starting out, people are investing in you. That's the reality of it. But as you start to look at being able to build out and scale, then you want to kind of be able to diversify things, build out that business brand because at the end of the day, it is a business. And you want the business to be able to do business things and not affect you as a person. So if someone is building something out and they know they have to raise their prices because, prices need to go up, you have to pay for overhead and all the rest of that. You can still maintain your personal brand, but you can kind of switch things over to the business side. Like in order to maintain the business and maintain the experience that you've been enjoying, then the business has to be able to charge more money. It's not you specifically saying, I'm taking that money so I can put it in my pocket. It's reminding people that there's the business that needs to be able to function. There's the accoutrements, if you will, that all of these people have gotten used to. Like you like being able to go in and get napkins, like when the pandemic happened, they were like, oh yeah, and now you have to pay for shopping bags. Pandemic is long since over. How many people are still going in and just giving away shopping bags now? Now it's like if you go into the store, a lot of times you got to go into the store with a bag or you got to buy a bag. So it's understanding that there's different things that you can kind of separate over to the business side. And once people get trained on understanding that's the business, you can separate yourself. And that's where you can have the two. When I mentioned Papa John's, there was a thing where the guy said something and it didn't go well. And Papa John's was smart enough to be able to say, you know what? We're going to remove him and we're going to put somebody else in as a spokesperson, but it's not going to actually affect our brand. You see so many
Well,
different variations of it. I love that you went with Revolt because Revolt is a great example. Because while a lot of things were going on, they never really took a hit. Their shows, none of the content, any of the things that they were doing were going to take a hit. I've worked for places where they had a great experience that they were offering people. And because there was someone that was doing something that they weren't supposed to be doing, it didn't affect the brand. They just were able to remove that person or put them in the background, and you just didn't have to look at that person, but it didn't affect the actual business. When I got my start, I got again, I'll bring it back to the music industry. One of the things that made me fascinated about it is I got to learn it on one of the hardest sides, because on the music industry side, an artist and people are one of the hardest things to be able to package because people say and do things. But if you're talking about a product or a service, it is what it is. So if you can figure out how to be able to build out the business side, that's the product or the service. The personal brand is the person that may say or do something, but it shouldn't actually affect the actual business. So I love that you were able to package that up and highlight the differences, because building one, there's the business and it may feel impersonal, and it may be something like one of the reasons people like small businesses is because they have that relationship. They feel it's more of they get to know the owner, they get to feel like they're having a real engagement, as opposed to a chain store where you go in and you can see someone and the person helps you and you go back in and they've seen so many people that they may not remember who you are.
Yes.
So that's the business brand where, you're going there, but you're going there for the convenience, you're going there for whatever the experience is. When you're going to someone that's a small business owner, you're going to them because of who that person is, and it's probably got more character involved in it than it does the business side. So start with the character and then start to look at how you can fill in the other parts. So when it's business and you can separate the two. So you don't have that one barista that does something and they're like Starbucks, everybody can get it. So I love that you use that as example, and Revolt also, because those are great examples for people to be able to go, if one doesn't relate, the other one will. Now, let me bring it back around to you, because you work with clients that are at every revenue stage, anywhere from 30K to 300K. At what point does someone start thinking about reputation as an actual asset that needs investment versus someone that's just doing it as a byproduct for their business? So we talked about damage control and some people doing things on a smaller scale, but it is something that you can start to invest in and very much turn it from a personal brand into that business brand that allows you to be able to do a lot of things and kind of take a step back so that you can have your life and speak and do whatever you want without it actually affecting your money.
Well, you want to start thinking about when you start making money. Like, the main thing is survivability always, right? You don't have a business without sales. So once you have that, you have a steady way to get that. Then you can start thinking about, what do I do with this money that I'm making? Right? Reputation is usually always the answer, whether it's marketing, advertising, or from a PR standpoint. Reputation is all we have. It's all we have. Right? Warren Buffett, I think, said the quote, right? It takes 20 years to build a reputation. It takes 20 seconds to ruin it.
Yes, it
Right?
does.
So when when you talking about getting more clients and you talking about getting more opportunities, when you talked about leveraging everything that you have done thus far, that's reputation management. That's when you need to start thinking about, when you start looking at, like, how can I leverage these clients that I just got, right? These testimonials, the reputation, right? How can I start leveraging that, right? How can I start, like, we're doing so much for the community, blah, blah, and we don't know no journalist that wants to talk about our stuff, right?
Yeah.
How do I start leveraging that, right? When you talk about PR and you talk about reputation management, you talk about growing a reputation, it's about leverage, right? And it's hard to leverage what you don't already have, right? So I want to say this as a warning. PR is not going to cover up certain mistakes, right? If you if you're not making, like, the right decisions as an owner for your company, hiring us, like, that's not the smart move. Like, hey man, I just messed up real bad. Can you help? Excuse me? Uh Gee, right? It can't, we can't cover up certain mistakes, but we can leverage what you already have going on. So, like, when you
Right.
start making money and you start thinking about, how can I use my reputation or grow my reputation so I can get more opportunities, so I can build a better brand for my audience, right? So people want to come here, so people want to interact with us, so people want to engage with us, right? Then you start thinking about, okay, let's talk about PR, right? Let's talk about different ways I can leverage my story, right? Different ways I can getting context, like, I just had a video testimonial. Somebody just gave this awesome review. How can I leverage this?
Nice.
Right? Some people just like there's just different things that is going to hit your mind, but if it keeps coming like, how do I leverage this? How do I leverage it? Like, dang, my reputation. Hey, I need more people talking about it. I need more engagement. Start thinking about investing in PR. Start setting a little budget, right? Add $10 a day, whatever it is,
Mhm.
right? That way you can do it right, right? And when I mean do it right, I mean like start from the basics, like the foundation of it, the bones. Because a lot of
Yeah.
times people think about PR and they get into the habit of like, yeah, I just want y'all for like right now. Like it's an ongoing partnership,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
PR is an ongoing partnership. It's not just a one-off service, right? Like you mentioned, a press release. It's not just a press release, right? It's everything that goes into the bones. And you can start thinking about that as early as you making like $1,000. Or you can set $10 a month, right? And I don't want it to be a big purchase, right? Any agency, this is another tip for small business. Any agency that you hire or outsource, set money aside. Think about it beforehand. That way, when they
Yeah.
come to you with a price, you're like, all right, this is my budget, right? Small businesses have a habit of just thinking about how much is it? Okay, I got this much to do it instead of putting aside a budget, right?
Right.
So when you start thinking about leverage, that's usually the right time to start thinking about, okay, long term sustainability. You need to start thinking about public relations.
Okay. I think you're doing yourself a disservice, and I have a habit of going, "No, we're not gonna do that." Like, I'm not gonna let you be on the humble about something that I've heard you explain how to be able to build it from the grassroots on up, and I'm just gonna bring it back around to what you said, but I'm just gonna break it down so that we can put it into perspective for someone that may have heard it, but they weren't really listening close enough to hear it. You need a story, and the story starts with why'd you start? You know, again, it could have been something where you had a great experience and you want to help other people be able to have that experience. It could be you had an awful experience that you want to help other people avoid. That's your origin story. You start pulling that stuff together, you start pulling that money aside, you start thinking about the fact that you need a story to be able to tell. The majority of business, when it comes to being able to get people to invest in you, it's based on a few different things. It's based on character, it's based on the story, and it's based on how you position those two things. So you're teaching people how to be able to pull that stuff together so that when they do come to you, $1,000, $30,000, $300,000, it doesn't matter how much money they have. If they don't have something to give to you so that you can do something with it, then it's going to make it harder for them to be able to get whatever definition of success they're trying to pursue. So the fact that you're teaching people how to be able to pull that stuff together heading into it, maybe before they even start their business, they go in knowing, okay, well, I know why I want to start my business. Then they can go into that going, you know what? This is why I want to be able to do it. Now, when I get that first customer, I'm going to have that conversation with that customer and say, you know what? This is why I wanted to be able to do this. Did you have that same experience? If you have that same experience, then that's two people that had that experience. And it takes it from you making it about you to you saying, yeah, I had this experience and I hope make sure that somebody else didn't have that bad experience or someone had that great experience. Then that allows you to be able to remove yourself from the situation and start making it about that person. And then when you get the next person, then it makes it about two, then it makes it about three, then it makes it about four. And as you build that out, this is what I heard in what you were teaching. And it allows you to still be that human and allows you to be able to frame, reframe, and figure out all these things to start pulling all that stuff together so that realistically, I can say from my side, and I won't speak for you, but I know from our conversations, technically it's the same thing. If someone comes to us when they have more, then it makes it easier for us to be able to do what we need to do. And it affects the pricing and affects the turnaround and affects the results that they're going to be able to get. So helping someone be able to pull the pieces together so that when they go to someone and they have their stuff together, readiness is one of the biggest things to help you get in the rooms and get to the people that will actually do the best job, as opposed to the people that are just willing to take your money. You've already shown that you're not one of those people that's just going to take someone's money just to be able to take it. So the fact that you're showing people how to be able to pull the stuff together so that when they do come to you, that you can all but ensure the results, I love that, and I didn't want that to get kind of swept under the rug of, "Well, here's all the things that you can do." You've explained how for people to pull that stuff together, so by the time they do get that together, if they're putting money aside, let's just go back to that part for a second. If you're putting money aside, it's not, "Well, how much do you charge?" It's, "Here's what my budget is." When you come to someone, you say, "Here's what my budget is," that already makes you sound ready because it means that you thought about that part. It's not, "Well, you tell me how much it is that you charge, and then I gotta pull that money together." That means you're not ready. That means you have to go get the money and come back, and then how much time can I invest in someone that's not ready, and I don't know that they're gonna come back? So, everything that you've been doing has been preparing people for them to be able to step into that arena, be it they're doing something where, like you said, press releases, it's not the only thing, it's just a piece of the puzzle. You've highlighted social media. You've highlighted all these other things, all these regular conversations that people are having that they may take for granted as things that are pieces to the puzzle of them being able to build out not just better public relations and a better reputation, but you taught some media training. You've shown people like, you know what, take a minute. Think about like you're talking to a child. Like all of these things are things that people have to pay to be able to learn. And you've just been dropping them very casually, like, well, I mean, here's what I would do, and here's how you can do this, here's how you can do that. That's why I wanted to have you on because these are things that people charge a lot of money for. But not only are you giving them game, but you're breaking it down in a way for them to be able to understand it, explain it. And if they can understand it and they can explain it to someone else, then they have a better chance of being able to actually implement it. So I appreciate you, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. And something you just said that I
Mm.
want businesses to small businesses specifically to really understand is the readiness part. Readiness, it doesn't just apply to PR. It applies to marketing, it applies to sales, it applies to going into an investor room, it applies going to the bank, like all these things. Business is the ocean, right? It's an ocean in a storm. And when you're out there, like it's a storm, like anything can happen, right? And you're swimming with a lot of sharks. And if you go out there, you're not ready for it, you're gonna get chewed up. And then you're gonna go back saying, yeah, business is this, or you're gonna have a bad taste about everything, right?
Yeah.
So always be ready. If you take one thing from this podcast or this episode, it's be ready and think before you even get in certain situations, right? Think about how you show up in PR before you even get to a PR agency. This is my impact. This is how I want it to look. This is how I want to sound. These outcomes I want. This is the money I have. This is what I need you for right here. Now you got a little leverage. And now when you talking to a shark, now it's two sharks talking rather than you just being a little goldfish finding Nemo. And now you're running for your life and now you're lost in a way of business. Now I can take advantage of you. So always be ready.
I love that. Well, I was gonna ask the next question was if they don't if what's one thing you want someone to take away from it? And that for me, yeah, that's it. I'm not even gonna touch that. The only thing I'll do is add to what you said, one extra little bit of readiness gives you teeth. It gives you leverage. So when you're in the if you're in the waters, in troubled waters and you're dealing with sharks, that's what gives you something to be able to bite back with. That's something when someone says, "Well, I charge this much." Well, I'm bringing this much, so you don't have to do all of that stuff from scratch. I'm bringing you some of the things to make it easier for you to be able to do what you need to be able to do. That's the leverage that gives you something to be able to negotiate with. So, readiness across the board is going to be something that helps people no matter what the situation is, because preventative measures is always going to trump reactionary solutions because reactionary solutions means you have to go get ready. Preventative measures means that you already walk in with a certain level of knowledge and understanding, and that's harder for people to take advantage of because you're already letting them know, I know enough to know when I hear something that doesn't sound right. That's the one thing that I would tell someone. Definitely readiness, but like understand the importance of preventative measures. Public relations, media training, all of these things are great for reactions of like something bad happened. How do I fix it? But if you can get out ahead of things and take the preventative measures and do everything that you've been laying out in this episode, then it's gonna serve you so much better than trying to put a Band-Aid on something that is already a bigger problem than a Band-Aid is gonna fix. When you can get out ahead of it and take control of telling your own story, knowing how to frame, reframe, knowing how to leverage being online, knowing how to leverage the clients, build brand champions. You've laid out so much that this is going to be something I want people to be able to listen to and come back to because they may not be ready now, but if they listen to it when they do have some things in place, it gives them something to realize I have more than I thought I did. And that's one of the reasons why I thought you were going to be a great guest. So, I'm going to bring it back to the promise, but then I want you to tell people about where to find you, how to work with you, and how to be able to take advantage of all this great insight and everything that you've been able to lay out. So I'll bring it back to the promise. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why reputation management isn't just damage control, it's preventative strategy. You'll know the critical difference between short term wins and long term brand value. Recognize the reputation mistakes that tank a business, especially small businesses, and learn how to build relationships that protect and elevate your reputation before crisis hits. So I feel like we've covered that. I feel like more specifically, you've covered that. I've just been cheerleading on the back end going, yeah, I mean, you
I
nailed it.
think it was a collaborative effort.
I want people to now, I wanted to put it after the promise because now that we've fulfilled that promise, here's someone that you know that you can work with that's going to be able to help you get to where you're trying to go. So tell them about who you are, where they can find you, the best ways to be able to work with you, and some of the things that you offer so that they know they already know they need help. They know who to be able to go to for that specific type of help.
What's up, everybody? I'm the founder of Legend Initiative, and we help companies with their brand reputation, whether it's growing, expanding, or leveraging what they already have, right? Telling those stories, building those brand relations, and just developing strategies that actually matter. You can find us at legendinitiative.com, right? That's our website. If you want to work with us, see some of the projects we got going on, our tours, all that. You can follow me on LinkedIn at Nate DuBois, right? I should be the first one to pop up. If I don't, I'm sure I hired the wrong guy. Instagram at Legend Initiative, right? All social media channels at Legend Initiative. You can follow our company, follow some of the projects we got going on. Love to work with y'all.
Love it. Love it. I also feel like you almost selling yourself short again. You do events. Like, you set things up for people to be able to have those wins. So I know that you're not only doing it locally, but you can also work with people in making sure that they figure out how to leverage their own community. So I want to add that part because normally when people hear things, they're like, oh, well, they're located here. Maybe they can help me over here. What you do is something that can be done technically worldwide. It's just, again, readiness. If they can come to you and tell you what it is that they're trying to accomplish, it gives you enough to be able to figure out what that community is, what they need, and then be able to spin up something for them so that they can get done what they need to be able to get done. And then always be able to leverage the journalists and anyone in that community, local stations and all the rest of that to be able to make the most of it. So there's a lot there. There's a lot that you do. And there are more people that need it than they know that that more people need it than they know they need it. So I want to make sure that I bring that part back around so that people can take advantage of it because it's even more important now. There's so many people out here that are doing different versions of the same thing that the only way you're really gonna be able to stand out is if you have a story, and you are someone that helps people craft their stories. So I wanted to make sure that we covered that part as well. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, bro.
Appreciate
This is
you.
everything I thought it was gonna be and more.
All right, man. Appreciate you having me. Thanks for having me on. It's a great podcast. We love chopping up with you. And for the audience, if they don't know, we was talking like 3 hours about basketball. They need PR as much as y'all do.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. All right, bro. Well, I mean, this is the first, but I would love to be able to have you come back on and we can dig into different aspects of it. Like we talked about media training, we talked about different pieces of the puzzle. We can probably dig into those a little bit more and give people more of the insights so that they can figure out better ways to come to you prepared and ready.
I would love to be on.
All right. All right. Well, I hope you guys found this helpful. Again, not everything is meant for you to live in this moment. Come back to it when it's relevant, when you can do something with it. And I guarantee you, when you listen to it with ears and have the context that you need, it's going to be even more valuable. So like, share, and subscribe. If you know someone that needs it, share it with them, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Strategic Thinkers podcast. Remember, when you can make the inconvenient convenient, people are willing to pay you for the experience. The better the experience, the more they'll not only pay you, but help others pay you. Serving as brand champions. My name is Sean Atkinson, and I'm wishing you well on your journey to your definition of success. If you find this podcast interesting, helpful, worth the listen, like, share, and subscribe. Leave a positive review so people know to check it out, and I'll see you next time.